ever heard of the term reading words? As odd and bizarre this reading words theme may sound, this was, and in many ways still is, a very real thing. What? You might be wondering, who is fighting with each other and why? Don't worry, you'll understand everything after watching this video. By the way, this video is a fragment of a longer video on the channel where I also explain all about balanced literacy. If interested, I'll leave you a link to that other video on the video description. But for now, let's find out what reading words are. If you didn't know, phonics and the whole language and whole word approach are radically different methods for teaching reading, and these systems have been fighting with each other for decades. There's even a term for this, reading wars. And even though the war seems to be sort of over now, in the past this was no joke. In fact, just to illustrate how heated all this got, listen to this story. Back in 1990, at a conference, a phonics proponent called M.J. Adams indicated that phonics and phonemic awareness were essential for becoming a truly skilled reader. A whole language advocate who was at the conference got so upset by Adams' presentation that said, "Someone get a silver and this woman, she is a vampire." Apparently 3 witnesses at the conference recounted this story, and that is documented on the book Essentials of Assessing, Preventing and Overcoming Reading Difficulties by David Kilpatrick, which is where I found out about this story myself. But look, the war between phonics and the whole language approach goes way back than that. Rudolf Flesch, a well-known Austrian-American author, on his book Why Johnny Can't Read, also pointed out to the problems of the whole word approach back in 1955. He offered to tutor a boy, Johnny, who had been held back in 6th grade because he couldn't read. Johnny couldn't even read a simple word such as kid. Why? Well, Flesch realized that no one had told Johnny how to sound out words, how to decode. In other words, no one had taught Johnny phonics. Even though the book became a bestseller, it didn't move the needle for real changes in the school system. In fact, in 1981, he wrote a sequel, Why Johnny Still Can't Read. As you can see, positions were rigid. The air was extremely tense and the issue was even political. So how did the war end? Did one side win? Let's see. After years of the whole language approach dominating the scene and the way in which reading instruction was being taught at schools, many people started to advocate for changes because, as mentioned before, Johnny still couldn't read. It was evident that something was not right with reading instruction, as reading scores were static and poor. This situation led to major inquiries into how teaching was carried out. Inquiries are addressed to policymakers so they can assess such situation and make changes. For instance, the 1998 report Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children, written by Catherine Snow, Susan Burns and Peg Griffin, normally simply called the Snow Report. One of the main recommendations of this report was to stress out the importance of phonics. The alphabet code should be taught from the first year of instruction, and children should have regular and systematic practice to gain mastery in phonics, vocabulary, fluency and comprehension. I know your question now, did phonics win the war then? Did these findings translate into practice in the classroom? And what does this all have to do with balanced literacy? In answer to the first 2 questions, did phonics win the war and did these findings translate into the classroom? Well, yes and no. The issue was still hot and political. The proponents of the whole word, whole language approach did not really change their mind. And we're not talking about a minority group here. There were many and they were very influential. So to calm the waters down came the balanced approach. The balanced approach was the middle road solution, or the compromise that was taken to keep both sides happy. By the way, before I forget, we have a video on the channel that explains how radically different the whole word approach is from the phonics approach. I'll leave you a link over here and also on the video description.